Hello and welcome to today's Woman with Aminat Hassan. In this program, we will feature amazing women who have made significant impact in Nigeria and beyond. We will get to hear their stories, how they exhibit tireless dedication, strong leadership, impassioned goodwill, while celebrating their contributions and successes. Our guest today is Dr. Mrs. Sarah Jubril, who is a well-known personality. She is a woman who stormed Nigeria's political space with grace and courage, contesting the presidential position 4 times. Aside being a politician, she's a social reformer. Mama Sarah, as she's popularly called, was the special advisor to former President Goodluck Jonathan between 2011 and 2015 on ethics and values. Welcome to the program, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right. Nigerians would like to know, you've been off the political radar for quite a while. What have you been up to?
Thank you for having me here.
Yes.
Just to tell you, yes, I've been very busy with politics too.
Okay.
I belong to Justice Must Prevail Party. I was the first chairman of the party. Then I handed over to somebody else, and my role in the party now is Mother of Nations. The party is focused on justice and righteousness because we involved the commandments of God foundationally in the party. And since God is asking for righteousness in this country, and then to spread from here to Africa and all over the world, we have to be very attentive before and believe to accept to be obedient to the Almighty God. So we are God pro-commandment party.
Okay. We just finished the primaries for presidential candidacy and all that. Mm-hmm. Your party wasn't very visible in that regard. So why was that?
We listened to the instruction because it cannot be just ordinary party flowing in ordinary pattern. And it is said that the other parties that were small were deregistered. But the way we look at it, you cannot deregister the purpose of the Almighty God about the restoration of issues that have been absent in humankind. So at the understanding of INEC, they felt those parties that were not, didn't win enough votes or candidates were to be registered. I think that, first of all, it is wrong. Mm. If people choose to belong to a group, they have the right to belong. Yeah. And if it's because the INEC used to give parties money, that's why they have to register some party. We didn't ask anybody to come and to sponsor us. And some people maybe have political parties thinking that is the way they could make their own living or what. Mm. Some of us don't feel so. We're on a mission. So since it was so, we complied, obeyed, but that didn't stop the activities of the party.
Okay, ma'am. You are into humanitarian activities now, but in this realm, in terms of spirituality. Tell us about your NGO, the Mother of Nations.
It is related to what I'm doing in politics.
Okay.
My name is Sarah, the name of the wife of Father Abraham, and also co-mother of Ishmael, a mother of Isaac. Yeah. God called Sarah, Abraham's wife, Father Abraham's wife, Mother of Nations. And as I've told you, our party is founded on the purposes of God, not only for Nigeria, yeah, but for the whole entire world. Because everybody knows we are beginning to say what's happening is we are coming to the end of times. And God has to be something to transform the world into how He wants the world to be from the beginning. So with what is happening today, it appears, particularly in Nigeria, we seem to have forgotten that we have responsibility to raise children, human beings, from the wombs of mothers, nurtured by their blood, by their milk, first of all, by the, surviving the labor pains with their milk, sleepless nights, and just the nurturing of the human species to God-knowing, God-fearing, people acknowledging, respecting, life respecting, and life nurturing continuously. So I am to listen very carefully, to learn even from the holy books. I read the Bible, and also see some things written in the Quran. The importance of the human species from the Almighty God that created us. And even both Jesus Christ and Prophet Muhammad, they were born by women. That's the principle of God's creation. And therefore, looking at that, I am to understand, to study, and observe. And that was the more reason why I went into politics. I didn't have the money, but I thought, and I determined that my business in politics is not to cheat people, to harass people. It is to transform Nigeria and later on humanity, renurturing Nigeria back to sanity, godly sanity. So, to me, I wasn't scared. We were supposed to pay 400,000. I protested to the villa, to General Babangida when he was president. And I queried, I'm contesting that my salary was 2,000 naira when I was a commissioner in Kwara State. How was I supposed to raise money? More so, my husband had retired, so he had no salary to add to me to pay 500,000 naira after we had done MAMSA, all the mobilization, and then coming back to ask for 500,000 naira. So I asked the question, who is building, who is demolishing in house? Wake Ginawa, wake Rushewa.
You asked this to?
I asked Mr. President.
Okay. Then General
General Babangida. So he said, give us 2 weeks. And 2 weeks later, it was announced that instead of presidential aspirants to pay 500,000 naira, the ticket, the ticket to buy, the form for the presidential contest was 1,000 naira. That I could afford. And that was how I was able to buy the form. And eventually, I was the only one that qualified in Kwara State. People were saying they will see how somebody is going to contest herself and win and lose election. I won at the ward, local government level, and at the state level. By the time I said 1 or 2 things, but one thing I must let the women know, there is time for everything. I couldn't say, we were not supposed to say anything. So I went to Kwara South, knelt down with my 2 legs, dressed like typical of Nupe woman. Kwara Central, knelt down, 2 knees. Kwara North, knelt down, 2 knees. And by the time I jumped up, and shouted SDP, the whole hall got up, excited, clapping. Okay. By the time they voted, I lost just 3 votes. 1 said no. 2 had confusion in their choices. So I lost 3 votes. And out of, I think, 800 and something delegates, I lost only 3 votes. That means they were watching when I was commissioner. Yeah. And everything I was doing, how I managed to have scaled through my ward, accepted by my ward, by my local government, now the states. Bigger people contested, but I was the only candidate.
Okay. Away from politics now, you were former special advisor to former President Goodluck Jonathan on ethics and values. Today's Nigeria seems to be lacking ethics and values. Some will say from the leadership position down to the citizens. What's your take on this?
Yes, I will agree by that, but because even leadership starts from the home.
Okay.
It's who you bring up that will become that sort of leader in the future. And so, but at the point of leadership, we have accepted to take oath of office, both by the Bible and the Quran. But there is lack of supervision by the leadership, not only the president, the core leadership at all levels, to ensure that people complied with the content of the oath of office and the oath of allegiance. Because we seem to feel that it's in politics you could do corruption, cover it, and get away with. Whereas we are supposed to remember a father, the president is the father of the nation. The governors who take funds from the Mr. President to their states, they are political uncles, caretakers of the citizens. The councillors are political cousins because they are related to one another. So the human beings that have had the fear of the mighty God they swore to with the holy books that were supposed to comply in the obedience of the Almighty God to do that which they had opened their mouths to swear to. But it appears there is no supervision. And I'm afraid I do not see adequate supervision by the presidencies of this country to the governors and to local governments, because it starts the strictness, the rigor of compliance, of good character.
Okay, ma'am.
Starts when it comes to politics, leadership, from leadership. But beginning, the leadership training starts from the home. The parents, you develop the conscience of the child. The schools, primary, nursery, all the way to tertiary and working place. Every time, every aspect of life is both teaching and putting into the system what you have been taught. We have a situation whereby we don't teach civic education adequately, and once we neglect nurturing a flower from little. It is what you put, if it is well nourished, you're going to have beautiful plant. If it's not well nourished, no. If a human being is not well nourished with the fear of God by the two books, as far as I'm concerned, if we mix up the Almighty God with other gods, we have confusion. That from the home. And we tend to have many different gods in Nigeria, all sorts of names. But we have to remember, the Almighty God created heaven and earth, gave us everything. So our service is to that God that created us. But when we choose to have other gods mixed to it, of course we are going to have confusion. And we will not follow obediently, strictly, rigorously, what the commandment of God says human beings to do, who will eventually live their lives and are accountable to the Almighty God, their creator. And we must remember, by the time one has finished here, gone into the grave, you are left alone with the creator of that. You will be surprised of the human person. You are reporting back to God. Those of us who believe that God is the creator of life, giver of life, the caretaker of life, and after we are transited from this earth, we are reporting back to the Almighty God.
Okay, ma. We'll be taking a break now. I'll be back with you soon. welcome back. Back to our guest. Back to politics. You're a role model to most female politicians. But today we have fewer or no women being represented in key positions in the society. What's your take on this?
Well, maybe some of them got discouraged what they see in the politics. Women have seen themselves as more victims to the losses of their children, human beings that are being lost in Nigeria. And if politics involves killing, sacrifices, excuse me, I have to mention it, to even hidden human sacrifices, they are scared. Because in every way politics is going, women seem to be the victims. And it takes one who deliberately wants to hold the Almighty God, the chief eternal security being, to keep one. I would have died several times and forgotten. But this God kept me alive.
Ma, when you say you would have died several times, please give us an instance. Why do you say so?
Because people plotted, I heard that, okay, this is what you do. Somebody wants to kill you, I'll be in my car. Somebody tell me that we've been asked to call you. And what I was saying, I will just simply back to them, consuming fire on you. And then they keep quiet. It's not once, twice. In the car, traveling. All sorts of, blackmails. All sorts of lies. Even when you try to do something, they feel you are only doing it for yourself. But you cannot, honestly speaking, you cannot do politics anywhere. That's why people take oath with the holy books. You cannot do politics and mix it with any other thing, any other gods. If you try it, unfortunately, you either give up or somebody gives up you. It's very dangerous. But I will not discourage younger ones, because if they want to go into that, it's either you want to please somebody to belong, or you don't want to please anybody. It's either you please God or you please other human beings.
So what do women need to do to get it right?
Now, people had, of course, we had National Council of Women's Societies. Their business is to relate with from the bottom to the top. One, the local government chairman, even if they are older women, it's to get them linked up so that, first of all, so that they would choose, even from the market women, somebody who is their counselor that they know. And at the same time, while she's there, nurture her. What is expected of the goodliness or the godliness of women to nurture other human beings as they come as counselor or even chairman. But I must say, if women want to do politics, they want to sleep around with men, I have to be open about it. You cannot say you are going to go far, but even if you go there, you are still subjected to somebody. It's not everybody that does so. People get appointed by merit. But from what is happening, even when it comes to becoming delegates, why must people be bought? All sorts of means. And as long as we women, we subject ourselves to this type of being bought up by men, or taking the people carrying the money to go and buy our children, say our children are goats, they don't have no respect. Believe me, if I had ever tried any of this nonsense, I would have dropped off on the world. But the people in the world were watching. Local government, they are watching. The states were watching. Even when I was an officer. So it is what we call the good character. If possible, as excellency as possible, the fear of the Almighty God. The choice to be holy in the hand of God. That's why that's how. We will not be perfect, but at least be consistent in being the nurturing job that you have naturally. And if you do so, the people will see and they say, no, even though they don't vote, because I didn't have money to buy voters at any time. So because it was become a money thing, So I wasn't surprised that nobody came out. They were afraid from those who they took money from to them to come and vote for Sarah Jibril. So I wasn't surprised. Only one or two women followed me to the podium. But this is the thing. We have allowed the money to buy us, even our children, even our conscience. Even to talking about the Almighty God, both in the church and in the mosque. No, we have to be honest. It's either we want to follow God into politics, into nurturing human beings, or even the type of education we have. We cannot continue to buy ourselves into is it marks, A and B or C or to
okay,
to pass
with all this that you said,
yes.
With all this you said, what's been your greatest challenge as a female politician?
It is, I don't think, the challenge would have been for me to have been the president, to re-nurture Nigeria back to sanity. I didn't have the money to do the logistics. But I think the challenge is that I was running against the tide of corruption in Nigeria. And it would be dangerous for me to try that. So I'm not playing holier than thou. But I have to do what I was created for. People have various issues by God in their lives. But my own being called Sarah, the drilling or training I had for my parents stuck into my head. And I just minded my life right. But back to the women, I think it's hard and the women revive their dignity. And I said, if God would bring our principles in our salvation to God, we bring forth through women, that we were important to the lives of women, not biologically, also socially, also administratively. And one thing, the challenge I have, okay, now I'm a Christian woman. I have tried to tell the church that 1 Corinthians 12:28 says there are many jobs assigned in the church. One of them is government. The Christians say politics is dirty. Who then is if we are preaching holiness, rightness with God, who then will correct the politicians when they take oath before the churches, the pastors, and even the imams? Who will then correct the wrongdoers in politics, human administration, if the imams and the pastors allow themselves to be bribed by the same politicians?
Okay, okay.
So these are my challenges that I have.
Okay. Do we see you making a comeback with all these challenges and your experience? You know, do we see you making a comeback, not to contest, but to nurture young female politicians?
Yes, that's why I supported the bill in National Assembly on ethics and values. I think it's going to do the second reading now. I hope it should be passed before they go on recess. And secondly, no, not to contest, but play my role, asking for wisdom to how to mother nations. And that's why I've registered the organization, Sarah Jibril. Sarah Jibril for Ethics, Goodwill, and Reconciliation Foundation. Sarah Jibril, Mother of Nations, I got it correct now. Sarah Jibril, Mother of Nations for Ethics, Goodwill, and Reconciliation. So I'm getting to another level of playing my role, not only in Nigerian politics, but in world politics. Because when we finish, I have to go to United Nations to find out what is United Nations doing that we have people killing one another and they couldn't raise their voices to stop. Why is now we have a situation whereby, excuse me, I have to say this, because I said this when I was representing Mr. President in Germany. And I asked them, I said, we Africans, we must respect us. We Africans will never seen any male horse running after a male horse to have sex. Neither have we seen male dog after a male dog to have sex. Neither a lady chicken running after a male chicken to have sex. Why is the world forcing homosexuality on Africans in the name of money, giving them development money? We don't need development. We only have our own common sense if we are going to get ourselves correct and do what we are supposed to do. We have everything. We have the resources. We have the land. We have good weather. But why is the Western world trying to lure us into their godlessness? Excuse me. But we should be allowed to do our own thing. But now we have incursion of satanic worships. We have the homosexuality. We have all sorts of fashion, wild fashions. Why this country cannot be victim of all these nonsense pollutions in the world? God, the Almighty God, my God and your God and everybody else, will not take this unholy situation. We must start to walk back holy. If we want God to help us, but He is helping us. The word holy doesn't come into politics at all. It has to come. The word God doesn't come into politics. It has to come. God, holiness, justice. As we said, justice must prevail. The goodwill in one, that everyone, you wish well. It is the goodwill the Almighty God gave us, that He gave us the purpose to teach us. Therefore, the leadership, the followership, even the beneficiaries and co-developers must have goodwill from your heart. What is good for me, it should be good. Because when there is a word, when your needs are met, mine are at ease.
Thank you very much for joining us for this interesting discussion. We appreciate your time with us on Trust TV. Keep a date with us next week for another interesting episode. Until next week, stay safe and remain blessed. I remain your host, Aminat Hassan.